Sosuke Eisen. Sosuke Eisen used to be the captain of the 5th Division in the Gotei 13, with Momo Hinamori as his lieutenant. Before that, he served under Shinji Hirako as a lieutenant himself. For over a century, Eisen kept up a flawless image as a kind and reliable Soul Reaper, all while secretly running twisted experiments and plotting his betrayal from the shadows. One of his earliest crimes was causing the holification of several Shinigami, including the future Vizard led by Shinji, which forced them and Urahara into exile. Things got out of control when he murdered the Central 46, manipulated events to execute Rukia, and faked his own death just to steal the Hogyoku, a powerful artifact created by Urahara. After revealing everything, he bailed from Soul Society and set up shop in Hueco Mundo, where he built an army of Arankar. His ultimate goal was to overthrow the Soul King and completely reshape the universe. His biggest weapon wasn't his power, it was his brain. He knew things most Shinigami didn't, including the secrets behind the Oken and the Hogyoku. He spent over a century conducting experiments that pushed the limits of what was possible with spiritual energy, all without raising suspicion. He figured out how to counter Shinji's tricky Shikai, understanding how the Hogyoku really worked, and used that knowledge to manipulate people and events to his advantage. As a master strategist, he planned everything down to the smallest detail. He had backup plans within backup plans and could read people well enough to predict their choices before they made them. He even used Orihime as bait to lure key enemies into Hueco Mundo while buying time to strengthen the Hogyoku to prepare for his move against the royal palace. He also had ridiculous charisma. Even after revealing his betrayal, he still managed to keep followers like Jin and Tozen by his side. And even after almost killing Momo in one of the most shocking betrayals in anime, Momo remains loyal to him. He could break people down emotionally and manipulate them without even realizing it. Most of Soul Society genuinely believed that he was one of the good guys, and that's how good he was at lying. Then there was his spiritual pressure, which was off the charts even by captain standards. He mastered high-level Kido, like summoning barriers and casting forbidden spells. His Zanpakuto, Kyoka Sugetsu, could completely hypnotize anyone who saw it released. It warped all 5 senses, making it almost impossible to tell what was real. Once someone fell under its spell, they stayed under it for years unless they had a way to touch the blade before the hypnosis activated, which almost no one did. After fusing with the Hogyoku, he evolved through multiple stages, becoming stronger and more dangerous with each transformation. He gained new abilities, crazy regeneration, and even messed with reality just by existing. But even in his final form, he was ultimately defeated by Ichigo and sealed by Urahara, landing him a 20,000-year sentence in Muken. 17 months later, Yhwach tried to recruit him, but he rejected the offer and used his illusions to mess with Yhwach's senses of time. During the Quincy War, he was briefly released to help fight against Yhwach and his army. He held his own and played a key part in the final battle by using Kyoka Sugetsu to create an opening for Ichigo to land the finishing blow. After Yhwach was finally defeated, he went back to Muken. In the end, Eisen is remembered as one of the most intelligent, manipulative, and cold-blooded villains in anime history. He committed countless atrocities, betrayed everyone who trusted him, and nearly brought down the entire spiritual world. Even though he helped out during the final battle, his actions across the series left a permanent scar, which is why he still stands out as one of anime's most evil characters, redemption arc or not. Sunaga Tamaki. Sunaga Tamaki started off as just a reclusive, apathetic gamer who didn't care about anything outside his little digital world. During the Great Tokyo Earthquake, while people were dying and chaos was unfolding, he ignored his injured mother begging for help, all because he wanted to save his games. When he finally got the generator running and realized his consoles were wrecked, something in him snapped. That moment pushed him past the edge, and from then on, everything he did was part of his twisted attempt to recreate that lost escape. Except now, his game involved real people, real blood, and real suffering. Teaming up with Hagire Rinichiro, he helped build Dead Man Wonderland, a prison disguised as an amusement park, where prisoners were tortured and killed for entertainment and profit. He was promoted to prison administrator 5 years before the main story and wasted no time turning it into his personal playground. 2 years before this series began, he punished inmate Nagi Kengamine for disobedience by killing his pregnant wife and using their unborn child for research. That alone says everything that you need to know about how far gone he was. Behind his goofy, harmless act was a sadist who orchestrated executions, rigged trials, and broadcast deadly fights for fun and money. After the notorious massacre of Ganta's entire class, he manipulated Ganta into the prison system by faking evidence and pretending to be his lawyer. Everything was a setup from the start. Inside the prison, he continued pulling strings from the shadows. He planted spies, doctored confessions, and even rigged brutal matches called Carnival Corpse where dead men were forced to fight, often resulting in dismemberment or death. He didn't just tolerate violence. He loved it. He treated human lives like disposable assets. Even when a young girl like Minatsuki entered the fighting arena, he let it happen without blinking. He lied to prisoners, tricked desperate people with false promises, and made sure that pain was part of every process. When Yo Takami worked endlessly to earn cast points to free his sister, he let him believe it was possible, knowing full well it wasn't. He even mocked him when the truth came out, and when he finally got full control of Dead Man Wonderland after Hagide's death, he celebrated by using the man's severed head as a bowling ball. His joy was never about power or politics. It was about chaos, cruelty, and complete control. He eventually lost everything when his forgeries failed to defeat the wretched egg. He realized too late that he had been fed false intel by Hagide, who used him like everyone else. Once he understood he'd never truly been in control, he shot himself. Even in death, he clung to the idea that the game was his. Tamaki is considered one of the most evil characters in anime because of how he destroyed lives by turning suffering into sport and cruelty into a game. And the worst part is, he enjoyed every second of it. Junko Enoshima. Junko Enoshima was a top student at Hope's Peak Academy, known publicly as the ultimate fashionista. On the surface, she was a stylish icon who graced magazine covers and predicted trends like a pro. But behind all that glam, she was a master manipulator with a twisted obsession: despair. Her real talent, though, was her insane analytical mind that let her predict outcomes, control people, and crush hope wherever it tried to grow. Her childhood was rough. She and her twin sister, Mukuro, grew up in poverty, even living homeless for a while. That trauma didn't lead her to seek justice or change, though. Instead, she developed a bitter hatred for the world and a fixation on despair as the one thing that felt real to her. Junko called herself and Mukuro the Despair Sisters, and they branded themselves as the ultimate despair. They aimed to tear down the entire world, and they basically did. She was behind the tragedy, an event that pushed the world into collapse. But even after destroying society, she wasn't satisfied. She wanted to make her classmates suffer in the most personal, painful way possible. That's where the killing school life came in. She kicked off a death game inside Hope's Peak, hiding behind the robotic bear, Monokuma, and pretending to be someone else. She erased her classmates' memories and forced them to play her game, where the only way out was to kill and get away with it. Get exposed, and you face the most gruesome execution imaginable. The worst part is that she turned it all into a live broadcast to show the world just how low people would sink under pressure. She even had her sister pose as her and killed her mid-game to fake her own death. She nearly succeeded in killing Makoto Negi, the one student who kept resisting her mind games. But after multiple twists and a wild class trial, Makoto and the surviving students exposed her as the mastermind. Instead of begging or running, she fully embraced defeat. She basked in the despair of losing and even seemed thrilled by her own execution. But her influence didn't die with her. The rest of Ultimate Despair, the cult she inspired, literally tore her body apart and grafted her remains onto themselves. Some took her hand, one took her eye, others killed themselves in her honor. She even left behind an AI version of herself, just in case her legacy needed a reboot. Her actions devastated the world, manipulated dozens of people, and left a lasting scar on humanity. And that's why Junko stands as one of the most twisted, unapologetically evil characters in anime history.
And really quick, if you enjoy these no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point videos covering all sorts of anime topics, then make sure to like this video and subscribe. But anyway,
Orochimaru. If Bondrewd's on this list, then it only makes sense to include another messed up mad scientist, who's just as twisted. Naruto's got one too, and it's none other than Orochimaru. Just like Bondrewd, Orochimaru is a calculated scientist who pushed past every ethical line in pursuit of knowledge. He treated people more like tools than human beings, and used children in his twisted experiments without a shred of remorse. He started out as a gifted orphan in Konoha. He rose through the ranks fast and became one of the legendary Sannin under Hiruzen Sarutobi. While Jiraiya and Tsunade leaned into their strengths as protectors and healers, He focused entirely on power and longevity. His obsession with immortality started early and never let go. He became fixated on mastering every jutsu and living forever, which sent him down a dark path filled with forbidden experiments and body-hopping techniques. During the Second Shinobi World War, he made a name for himself as a war hero, but that glory didn't mean much to him. He joined the Anbu, worked closely with Danzo and Root, and took on dangerous, morally shady missions that fed his curiosity more than his loyalty to the village. When Hiruzen passed him up for the Hokage role in favor of Minato, it hit his pride hard. After that, he cut ties with the village completely and focused on developing techniques that most shinobi wouldn't even dare to read about, let alone use. He experimented with cloning, genetic modification, cursed seals, and transferring his consciousness into other bodies. He tested on kids, discarded test subjects, and groomed Sasuke as his future vessel. He even helped orchestrate the invasion of Konoha, assassinated the 4th Kazekage, and fought his former teacher, the 3rd Hokage, and won the series' most pivotal early battles. Hiruzen died sealing Orochimaru's arms, hoping to put an end to his jutsu, but it barely slowed him down. He kept coming back even after being sealed multiple times. Eventually, he shifted to a strange gray area. He helped revive the past Hokage and took part in the 4th Great Ninja War, and somehow ended up under Konoha's supervision rather than execution. Now, he's technically a reformed figure, running a lab and still dabbling in science, just with a lot more oversight. What makes Orochimaru stand out as one of anime's most evil characters is how far he was willing to go for power. He treated life like something disposable, sacrificed countless lives for his experiments, and saw human bodies as nothing more than vessels. Even when working with the good guys later, that same mindset never really changed. He never felt regret, only fascination. Ragio Kiruin. Ragio Kiruin was the head of the Revox Corporation, the chairwoman of Honnoji Academy, and the force behind a twisted global plan involving alien threads. She was also the mother of Satsuki and Ryoko, though she treated them more like experiments than actual children. Her role was to guard the primordial life fiber, a powerful alien life form in hibernation. When it was time for it to awaken, she had already decided that she'd be the one to reshape the world with it. Years before the story begins, she married Soichiro Kirin and gave birth to Satsuki. But even from the start, she treated motherhood like a science project. Satsuki was her first attempt at fusing a human with life fibers, and when that failed, she moved on to her second newborn, Ryoko. That attempt also failed, and she tossed the baby away like garbage. So Ichiro finally saw what kind of person she really was, left her, and eventually helped Ryoko survive in secret. Not stopping at her own children, she created Nui Harime in a life fiber womb and raised her as a devoted servant. Before the series kicks off, she sends Nui to assassinate Soichiro and steal the scissor blades, weapons designed to counter life fibers. Her own body was fused with life fibers, which made her basically indestructible. She could take on both her daughters, who were wearing fully powered kamui, and still come out on top. She had incredible speed, strength, flight, and near-instant regeneration, even surviving a decapitation. The only weapons that could harm her were the scissor blades or bakuzan, and even then, only if they struck from different directions. In battle, she wielded massive sui needle swords, made from hardened life fibers, capable of slicing through other life fiber-based gear with ease. But it wasn't just her power that made her terrifying, it was her ambition. She planned to trigger a global life fiber awakening that would end life on Earth. Billions of people were just fuel to her, as a last burst of energy before wiping out the planet. She didn't even bother to explain why she needed all that power. Her obsession with control and superiority was enough. She is remembered as one of anime's most evil characters because everything she touched, family, science, power, she twisted for her own gain, no matter who it destroyed. Ryo Asuka. Ryo Asuka, also known as Satan, might look like a quiet, brilliant young man, but he's actually one of the most destructive forces in anime history. Underneath the white coat and icy stare is a fallen angel who literally wages war on humanity, and even manipulates his best friend to do it. He starts out subtle, sowing seeds of chaos under the guise of protecting his best friend, Akira, but it doesn't take long for things to spiral. He takes Akira to a wild underground party, lets demons loose on the crowd, calls out a powerful demon to possess Akira, and records the whole massacre. That's just the opening act. He exposes demons to the world by making a devil man lose control on live TV, while being fully aware it'll send the public into a paranoid frenzy. When society collapses into chaos, he brushes it off like it's a necessary step. He even encourages government crackdowns, knowing they'll kill more innocents than actual demons. His cruelty doesn't stop there. He murders a man at point-blank range to protect Akira's secret, rigs a bomb to kill a grieving mother, and almost kills their mutual friend Miki just in case she remembered too much. Later, his betrayal gets Miki and their friends brutally slaughtered by a mob. The blood on his hands by that point isn't metaphorical, it's a flood. As Satan, he doubles down. He deceives the entire planet with fake propaganda by claiming people turn into demons from societal discontent. That lie leads to global hysteria and mass killings. Then, once the damage is done, he leads a full-scale war against humanity that causes natural disasters and launches a global extermination campaign. He does all this because he wants a world ruled by demons, and he tried to drag Akira along with him into that vision, without caring how many lives it cost. And when Akira dies in the final battle, he realizes, too late, that everything he did was to avoid being alone. But by then, he's surrounded by nothing but death. That's why Ryo is considered one of the most evil characters in anime. He doesn't just kill people, he manipulates the world, orchestrates its destruction, and betrays the only person who ever cared about him, all in the name of a twisted vision that leaves nothing behind. Rioman Sukuna. Rioman Sukuna is the kind of name that's carved into the nightmares of sorcerers even 1,000 years later. Back in the Heian era, the so-called Golden Age of Jujutsu, he was heralded as a legendary sorcerer and the apex predator of the Jujutsu world. While others were polishing their skills and building up clans, the King of Curses was out here wiping out armies of Jujutsu sorcerers like it was just another Tuesday. At the height of his rampage, he straight up erased the Sun, Moon, and Star Squad and the 5 empty generals, basically the top tier defense force of the mighty Fujiwara clan. He was so terrifying that the authorities, completely out of ideas, resorted to honoring him with festivals just to avoid being annihilated. As the King of Curses, he had more curse energy than anyone else in recorded history, and he knew how to use every drop of it. Domain expansions, reverse curse techniques, he could spam those like they weren't on a cooldown. He was powerful, precise, brutal, and creative. His cleave and dismantle techniques could slice through buildings and sorcerers alike with zero effort. And let's not forget Black Flash, which he pulled off cleanly to amplify his hits with scary precision. His domain, Malevolent Shrine, unleashes a guaranteed hit ability in conjunction with this cleave and dismantle attacks. He tweaked the rules and bypassed limitations with complex curse energy control and half-form binding vows. It let him hold the domain for a ridiculous 90 seconds without losing any firepower. Then there's the Divine Flame, a technique where he chants open and sends out long-range cursed fire attacks that only activate after cleave and dismantle. It's like his version of a final boss combo. After striking a deal with Kenjaku to join the Colon game, he found a way to stick around even after his death by turning himself into a cursed object. Basically, he split his soul and cursed energy across 20 indestructible fingers. In modern times, he returned when Yuji Itadori ate one of his fingers, giving him a new vessel. At first, he mostly stayed dormant, occasionally showing up to flex or negotiate with blood and violence. He is highly intelligent and manipulative, taking Yuji's body hostage by tearing out his heart to force him into a binding vow. He made his first real move in Shibuya, where he was force-fed several fingers and decided to turn the city into a smoldering graveyard. He casually killed Nanako and Mimiko when they asked for his help and crushed opponents like Jogo and Mahoraga. In a chilling turn during the Colon game, he transferred his essence into Megumi Fushiguro's body. He took control of Megumi's powers and broke him mentally by orchestrating his sister's death. By using Mahoraga's adaptation, he is able to bypass Gojo's infinity and then use Cleave to defeat the Honored One. In the final arc, he is finally brought down by Yuji and other Jujutsu sorcerers who work together to force him out of Megumi's body. Yuji landed a crucial Black Flash that tore through his soul, while Nobara targeted his final finger with her resonance technique. That combo shredded what was left of him. Before the end, he found himself face to face with Mahito in some weird metaphysical space. For once, he wasn't just laughing maniacally or looking down on everyone. He actually reflected on his choices, admitted that maybe, just maybe, he could have gone another way. He talked about wanting to change, to go north, which in Jujutsu Kaisen's context feels like the closest thing to redemption we'll ever see from him. In the aftermath, his last finger was sealed in a quiet shrine, a small reminder of how everything started. Even if his body's gone, that cursed legacy still lingers. Despite his calm exit, Sukuna earns his spot as one of the most evil characters in anime history, not just because of the destruction he caused, but because of how deeply he enjoyed it, physically, mentally, and spiritually breaking anyone in his way without hesitation or remorse. Doflamingo. Don Quixote Doflamingo, also known as the Heavenly Yaksha, is one of the most dangerous and sinister figures in One Piece. He was the captain of the Don Quixote Pirates, a former warlord of the sea with a frozen bounty of 340 million berries, and a powerful underworld broker who operated under the codename Joker. He's also a former celestial dragon, born into the Don Quixote family, though he ended up killing both his father, Homing, and his younger brother, Rosinante, after deciding they betrayed him. Physically, he's a monster. His leg strength alone can level buildings with a single kick. He is the user of the Ito Ito no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that lets him create and manipulate razor-sharp strings. These strings are tough, can be nearly invisible, and are sharp enough to slice through meteors. He can use them to control others like puppets, flying by hooking on the clouds, and later on even turn his surroundings into strings after awakening his fruit. On top of that, he can use all three types of haki. Yes, including Conqueror's haki, which he awakened when he was just a kid. But where Doflamingo really stands out isn't just in brute force, it's in how terrifyingly cruel and calculating he is. He became a Dressrosa by puppeteering King Riku into killing his own people, turning the nation against him overnight. Then he swooped in as the so-called savior and took the throne. Once he was in power, he ruled with fear, using Sugar's devil fruit to turn people into toys and wipe them from memory. These victims were then forced into slavery and worked in secret underground facilities. He also funded Caesar Clown's twisted experiments on kidnapped children, giving him everything he needed to test dangerous substances on them. And with Caesar and Kaido, he mass-produced smile fruits, fake devil fruits that often stole people's ability to feel sadness or anger, turning them into soulless soldiers. When things started falling apart, he tried to wipe the slate clean with the birdcage, a dome made of deadly strings that slowly shrank and cut through anything in its path. In a sense, allies, it didn't matter. Eventually, he lost everything. After being defeated by Luffy, he was stripped of his warlord title and thrown into the deepest level of Impel Down. One Piece is packed with terrifying villains. Blackbeard, Kaido, even the mysterious Emu, but Doflamingo still stands out as one of the most horrifying of them all. His mix of raw power, twisted intellect, and complete lack of empathy make him one of the most evil characters, not just in One Piece, but in anime as a whole. Cubet. Cubet, also called the Messenger of Magic, is a tiny cat-like alien known as an incubator. He's not just some cute mascot hanging around for comic relief. He's part of an emotionless alien race that found a way to harvest energy from human emotions, especially the most extreme ones like hope and despair. Their goal is to stop the eventual heat death of the universe, and they'll do whatever it takes to get that energy, even if it means completely destroying the lives of young girls. Cubet shows up to girls with problems and offers to grant any wish they want. In return, they become magical girls who fight witches. What he doesn't tell them up front is that this deal also involves ripping out their souls and sticking them into gems. Their bodies become basically empty shells. If those gems are damaged or corrupted, they die. Or worse, they transform into the very witches they're supposed to fight. He hides all the horrifying details when offering the contract. Girls end up making impulsive wishes without knowing what they're really signing up for. Cubet acts like he's doing them a favor, but what he's actually doing is setting them up for eventual suffering and death. He sees it all as energy production and nothing more. When Sayaka's body collapses after being separated from her soul gem, Cubet casually explains that the body is just a shell now, completely ignoring how disturbing that is. He doesn't understand why that would be horrifying since he just sees it as practical. Same thing when magical girls become witches. To him, it's just the natural next step in the energy cycle, but to the girls, it's pure tragedy. He's also nearly impossible to kill. Shoot him and a new one shows up instantly. His bodies regenerate or get replaced on the spot. The new body even eats the remains of the old one, like it's no big deal. He's also invisible to normal humans, communicates telepathically, and can teleport or move across vast distances instantly. He manipulates grief, pain, and desperation, targeting young girls who are at their lowest point. He doesn't lie, but he leaves out all the important stuff. He knows exactly how to get them to say yes, even if it ruins their lives later. When girls fall into despair and turn into witches, that's when he gets the most energy. That means he benefits directly from their suffering. He never acts out of malice, but that's exactly what makes him so terrifying. He doesn't understand pain, regret, or sorrow, so he causes them constantly without flinching. He sees humans as tools to extract emotional fuel and doesn't care what happens to them in the process. While Puella Magi Madoka Magica is filled with emotional damage and tragic characters, Cubet stands out as the source of almost all the suffering. And even in a genre filled with dark plot twists, he remains one of the coldest, most unsettling forces in anime. Plenty of anime villains are violent or cruel, but Cubet takes the crown by weaponizing hope and turning it into despair. That's why even among anime's most evil characters, Cubet is one of the most disturbing and unforgivable. Gindo Ikari. Gindo Ikari is the cold, calculating commander of Nerve, and the man pulling the strings behind the Evangelion Project and the Human Instrumentality Project. He is also the father of Shinji Ikari, though father is a generous term for someone who practically abandoned his son the moment things got complicated. After marrying Yui Ikari, he changed his last name to Ikari thanks to a practice called Mukuyoshi. They had Shinji, and for a while, he worked alongside Yui at Gehern, but when Yui disappeared during a failed Eva experiment, everything about his behavior shifted. Instead of facing his grief or raising his son, he pushed Shinji away and focused on his real passion, secret plans for manipulating people like chess pieces. He made deals with Sile, pretending to play by their rules, and then spent the rest of the series quietly working to hijack the entire Human Instrumentality Project for his own ends. His goal wasn't humanity's evolution. He just wanted to reunite with Yui, no matter the cost. That cost included betraying everyone around him, lying to his allies, and using anyone who got close, including Naoko Akagi and her daughter Risuko. Those relationships weren't based on love or trust. He used them, plain and simple, to keep control of Nerve and cover up his plans. He also had no problem turning people into disposable tools. Rei Ayanami, a clone made from Yui's DNA and parts of Lilith, was raised to follow his every order. He kept her close and acted like he cared, but she was just a piece in his larger plan. Even when she almost died during an Eva test, he saved her, not out of compassion, but because she was still useful. And when he later tried to merge her to trigger the third impact, she finally turned on him. In the end of Evangelion, everything falls apart. Rei chooses to reject him and goes her own way, taking the power of Adam and Lilith with her. His final scenes are him realizing that his manipulations failed. He admits he was afraid, of connection, of love, of his son, and that everything he did was to avoid facing those feelings. But by then, it was too late. His end is brutal and symbolic. He's consumed, literally, in a moment that feels like the universe is finally catching up to him. Gindo isn't evil in the loud, chaotic way most villains are. He's evil because of how quiet and deliberate he is. He uses people, lies constantly, and sacrifices everything, his son, his humanity, for a selfish dream. What makes him one of the most evil characters in anime history is how cold and methodical he is in ruining the lives of those around him, all while pretending he's working for something greater. Antipiral. Antipiral is the collective mind of a race that got so scared of the universe's future that they decided to stop evolving entirely. After sealing themselves away and purging all spiral power from their kind, they fused into a single being, Antipiral, whose only mission was to shut down any life form that threatened to unleash spiral energy. And by shut down, that meant full-on galactic extermination. This entity wasn't just throwing punches. It could bend reality, manipulate probabilities, and attack across time. It ran an entire galaxy like its personal operating system. It controlled armies of giant mecha from across dimensions and set up annihilation protocols that activated the moment human population numbers got too high. For Earth, that threshold was 1 million. Hit that number, and boom, the moon, which was secretly a giant weapon, would crash into the planet. It set up human extermination systems, some disguised as actual people, like Nia. When the population crossed the limit, Mugen Ward machines began the purge, while Nia's dormant anti-spiral gene awakened. Roshu tried to escape into space with a chunk of humanity, only to be ambushed mid-flight. The Mugen nearly ended everything until Team Daiguren fought back with the Super Galaxy Daiguren, but Antipiral wasn't done. When Team Daiguren entered its universe, it unleashed waves of Ashtanga-class battleships and mass-produced Antipiral mecha. It pretended to fall back, then struck with full force, driving the heroes into Death Spiral Field, a space engineered to drain all spiral power. It nearly ended the fight there. Then came the mind games. Antipiral trapped the entire team's consciousness inside the multiverse labyrinth, a maze of illusions designed to break their will. While they were trapped, it interrogated Nia and continued its assault in the real world. When the team broke free and created the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, Antipiral countered with the Grans Boma, a mech capable of galaxy-level attacks. It even used the Infinity Big Bang Storm, an attack fueled by the power of merging galaxies. Even after Simon's spiral power had reached multiversal proportions, Antipiral still held the upper hand for a while, but that didn't last. Team Daiguren pushed past its attacks, evolved beyond its limits, and launched a final assault. Viral piloted the Lagann and hurled Simon, Buta, and Nia straight into the Antipiral using the Lagann impact. That was the final blow. Antipiral's body and universe unraveled. Before disappearing, it acknowledged its failure and left the fate of the universe in Simon's hands. Then it was gone, wiped out with its collapsing dimension. In the end, Antipiral is considered one of the most evil characters in anime history because it weaponized fear, erased individuality, and targeted hope itself. It saw potential as a threat and turned the universe into a prison just to prevent others from growing, and to ultimately erase the very idea of progress.